you're also a person of color, and you're also a part of I think, multiple minority groups, female,
Right.
um, uh, your sexuality is a minority, and you're a person of color. So the triple threat of minorities. Do you think that that speaks to your activism, or maybe to your ability to see how unjust this world is?
Yeah.
I yes, the answer
Yeah,
is yes. Yeah. Yeah.
definitely. Coming from those oppressed groups, of course I understand what being a victim means, what being oppressed means. And then how dare I turn around and do that to someone else,
Yeah.
regardless if they look different than me, a different species than me. I'm not a human supremacist. Like I've said before, I'm not a speciesist. I
Yeah.
know that justice doesn't stop at the doorstep of human beings. Exactly
100%.
what can happen to us, it can happen to non-human animals, and it is happening to them. And
Yeah.
how dare I pay for that? You know what I'm saying? So, and people always ask me about fighting. Why don't I fight for this injustice or that injustice or those oppressed groups that I represent? Those oppressed groups that I represent had activists that spoke out and gave
Hmm.
me the privilege of voice that I have right now. And
Fair
what
enough.
I'm doing with that voice is speaking for those who cannot fight for themselves, who cannot defend themselves, and individuals who I was a victim to, or I was a victimizer to, rather. Like, I was the reason why they were in those oppressed states and in those exploitative states for decades. And I'm paying my debt back to them.
I just wanted to add a couple of other things. The activists of those oppressed groups that I represent, that spoke out and that fought real hard. They created a foundation where this day, as a gay black woman, I'm doing okay. Top notch? No. A lot better than 100 years ago. That's for sure. Perfect example of that. Older white man came into my office with a younger white man. And with this company, the communication is just not it's not up to par on their end. I've had to repeat myself 6 different times with 6 different people. And at the 7th time, maybe a little bass came into my voice. Never rude, just direct as I always am. And his eye, oh, he was cutting me deep. And if looks could kill, I wouldn't be standing here right now. He's probably in his late 70s, and other person probably, I don't know, 20s, 30s. But I'm sure when they walked out of there, especially the older man, I know he had a lot to say. But the foundation that those activists they made a world where now he keeps his mouth shut. And had he opened his mouth, my HR would have got involved like that. That's his job. So, are we 100% there? No. Are we doing a lot better than we were hundreds of years ago? Absolutely. And also right now, in today's society, there are laws, okay? Laws that protect people like me. Whether or not people want to uphold them, acknowledge them, implement them, that's on them. Those are personal attacks. That's the ignorance of individuals. That has nothing to do with, generally speaking, the rights that I have, the laws that are implemented. You know what I'm saying? So as a gay black woman, do I feel that I need to be out front lines, rioting, protesting? No. Those activists before me, they did that. And the people who are still racist and they're playing that Karen role, they're still homophobes and all that. There are billions of humans that are standing up and fighting for humans. And animals don't have that. They don't have enough representation. They don't have enough people fighting for them. And when I signed up to be an animal rights activist, it's in the name. I signed up to fight for animal rights. All of this, no, it's not what I signed up for. And Lolita, she's been enslaved for over 5 decades. What does that have to do with my race? Nothing.
But at the same time, most of those animals that I exploited and killed, they're all dead. Like, how do you pay back the debt to individuals who are no longer here?
That's such a good point. How do you pay a debt? I mean, I guess that's a question that all of us have. As it's an interesting thing to be a member of an oppressed group, but also be a member of an oppressor group, which
Right. I never thought about it like that. Well, saying it in those words, but exactly.
Because we're both, aren't we? We're the beneficiaries
Definitely.
we're the beneficiaries of oppression, but we're also anti-oppression. And I know that sounds like a contradiction, but I feel like it is. You said, I wrote down debt because I'm just like, yeah, it is. It feels like a debt that must be paid.
Right.
Um,
And these babies can't fight for themselves. They can't speak for themselves. They can't ward off and defend their oppressor. They can't do that. And there are humans that have billions of people fighting for them, billions of people speaking for them. Humans can speak for themselves in a lot of capacities. There's vegans that won't even speak for fucking animals, that won't even fight for them. Like, they need all the help that they can get. Screaming right now.
Of course.
Right now. But you know what's like, I feel like that is very selfish and greedy of people. How dare you be someone who is exploiting individuals and someone who is oppressing individuals and ask them, why don't they focus on someone else? Why don't you focus on your victims? Like, you are in no position to ask someone to focus on someplace else where your choices need a zoom lens. They need a vantage point. You need to get it in there because you're not looking too good. It's disgusting. Focus on that.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and also a point can be made. Well, they only do that with animal activists. They don't do it with. If you were saying I'm protesting the rights of the Hispanic workers in the fields of California, no one would be like, well, why don't you talk about the Uyghurs in China? Why don't you talk about the Hmong? Why don't you talk about that? Yeah, they never do that shit.
It's that mirror. They can't look at it.
Yeah, they
can't look at it. Can't face it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's our fault though.